Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're here with comic Hunter Gardner. Hunter Gardner, how the hell are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Let's enjoy this time together. Yeah.
Dude, is this the only one of the few contacts you've had in your quarantine today, or not really?
Today, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny about this time. You find yourself like reconnecting with people you hadn't before, or making sure you definitely stay in touch with the people you have been.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, a lot of like FaceTime calls, the occasional socially distant friend walk. It's all good, man.
And then where can people see you do stand? I guess it's not stand up. You do a monthly show called Hi Nice People, and it's got a variety of it's comedy, but it's also subject matter experts. And you were producing that before the virus hit. Where will that be in the future when New York City opens up?
Absolutely. So the main home base for that is Vital Joint in Williamsburg. It's a little walk down space. And that is where I typically put that show up. And the woman who runs it, Teresa, is like a delight to work with. And I would highly recommend checking out any show at Vital Joint.
And what are some of the kind of organizing principles that have unified shows in the past?
As far as the High Nice People show?
Yeah, you kind of pick a topic and then kind of bring in cast members accordingly. Like, what would be an example of one Hi Nice People topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did one called How to Relax. That was really fun. And
that could be useful. That could be useful now. Are you thinking about doing that remotely?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, the reason why I chose that is because I'm bad at it. I wanted an excuse to bring in a subject matter expert to tell me how to relax.
I love it. Purely self-serving. Yeah, put that on the expense account. I didn't need that at all, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that was a fun one. We did another one all about like money and like money issues. So I advertise it as like a feel-good show for adults. So I want it to be fun, and it's a comedy show, but also like we can kind of poke fun at more adult topics.
But yeah, some of those. I mean, even the money thing sounds perfect post-corona. So, yeah, like where are you kind of keeping that? I mean, it sounds like you also write kind of comedic monologues that you then film, like whether or not it's you actually doing the monologue, but also then you're in all the funny papers. You're in, was it Points and Case, McSweeney's, and let me check out. I follow you on Hunter Gardner, which is less. It's Hannah Gardner, but I will say that you could probably find it more easily with huntergardner.com. But it looks like you are McSweeney's, Points and Case, little old lady. But also, what is this? Is Robot Bud? Is that also like the other ones I just mentioned?
Yeah, that's another humor website. I think it's run by a guy out of Ohio, but a great spot. Yeah, and each one of those sites kind of have a slightly different voice or like deal or what they go for.
And so sometimes even going to open mics, you were only doing it to kind of test drive the material to make sure, it's pretty streamlined going into written word.
Yeah, a lot of times, because I wouldn't really describe myself as a straight stand-up. Like, yeah, I do these humor pieces or characters or sketches, and I mean, I love stand-up. It was like my first love. So kind of like once a smoker, always a smoker. And I still think in terms of like stand-up jokes all the time, right? But a lot of times, if I'm going to a stand-up mic, it's usually at a workshop, something that's a little bit more like an idea that might end up in a humor piece,
or it might end up on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So recently, I'm trying to find ways just to work on fewer things, but make much of them or as much of them as I can. And so with these humor pieces, I was like, cool, that's fun. It's always flattering to get published, but then how can I take that further? And when I was looking at them, I was like, oh, these are just written like character monologues. So why don't I essentially cast them and then we'll shoot them as like a little series. So we shot 3 of those before all the COVID stuff went down, and they're in post-production now. And when it kind of feels appropriate, they'll be released out into the world at some point, probably kind of dripped out, like maybe one every week or two.
And will it be embedded on your site, like if it's a YouTube video, or at the very least, they'll find it via your social?
Yeah, for sure. I'll put it on my website and the usual social splash.
And then, yeah, some of the stuff, I love the topics that you propose. Some of them are just, I love them, but I got to know what they are. First of all, what the hell is a to-go drink walk? I think I've done something like that where, I was going to hang out with some, and I guess it's not really correct, but I was going to hang out with a family at a Ditmar's restaurant that's since closed down. And real quick, I just pulled out a huge jug of Canadian whiskey, took about 3 huge shots, put it back in my backpack, and I was ready to go. I mean, it was so. I mean, if it wasn't Ditmar's, I could have been locked up. If there was a stronger police presence looking out for us white people, I could have been locked up. But what the hell is a to-go drink walk? Do you drink and then walk, or are you also putting something in a paper bag?
Listen, they're both good. I would say it's more like quarantine specific, right? Where
Okay.
these bars are doing a lot of like to go like margaritas and things like that, and they're great fun to me because it does feel like you're doing something a little naughty. You're kind of like walking around with a drink.
Are you allowed to
And
do that? I mean, are they really? I know they want you to take the drink to go, but are they really encouraging you to drink it in public on the way home? Is it
that's
packaged
that's
like
that's
that?
part of the fun. I mean, yeah, it's like it'll be like in little plastic cups, right? Like it's just begging for it. And and so like I mean there's like a socially responsible way to do that, but I have enjoyed that, like going on a walk with a couple of friends and like getting just to go margaritas and just one, a sensible one drink, and just sipping on that while you walk around the block. It's a nice little festive thing to do in strange times.
I love that. It's like the off-brand usages. It's like, well, that hydroxychloroquine or whatever. It's not really for coronavirus, but hey, man, people are using, Viagra for other things, or they're using, aspirin for heart attacks. Like off, it's like the bar knows, like the margarita is going to get, the ice drink that you ordered is going to get warm, so you're probably going to drink it on the way home, and that's why they're putting it in, kind of discreet packaging.
It's the Wild West out there right now, dude.
I can't even believe some of these people are outside, man. The crowds around the bars are still pretty crazy. And
It
one
is
other thing that I
wild.
loved is it says one real girlfriend who doesn't really count. What can you say about that? Because I have similar bizarro issues with that.
Yeah, exactly what it sounds like. I've only had one girlfriend my whole life, and she doesn't even really count. It was someone I dated my junior year of high school for like 2 months, and I think we kissed twice.
What does that
Yeah,
mean? What does that mean? Like you haven't dated since, or you don't,
no,
or it's more
no.
casual. You're more casual now, or something else.
I've like dated like plenty of people and stuff, but like just have not been in like a you're
Uh,
my girlfriend situation.
like it hasn't been exclusive since then. Like Tinder or Grinder or whatever are too successful for you.
That's flattering for you to say.
But
No, I
that is
mean,
that pretty much the case where it just hasn't gone exclusive. Like you really enjoy, dating a lot of people, so you never really found the one to settle down with.
if I'm honest, it's more like I have dated people, but like just never crossed that threshold. And if I'm completely honest, I think it's because I just present so much as like a nice guy who's just happy to be here. And when you're in the early stages of dating someone, that's not always what you're looking for.
You're looking at
Like
what's
my
it. You want some gamesmanship to increase your value and things like that.
yeah, maybe. It's just like my love languages are like quality time and words of affirmation. And it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and so like I'll date someone for like a little while, or like off and on or whatever, but it's like it took me until I was like 28 years old to be like, oh, I don't think people just want you to be nice to them. I think they want you to like make a move.
So I mean, is it at the expense of making moves? Because I have that problem too. Like I haven't dated in decades, and part of the reason why is because, like, I'm pretty hypersensitive to rejection, and so like I don't
Yeah.
ask. Like I've never had to ask girls out because back in the day when I was dating, it was so long ago that people just found a way to, their friends asked me out or some shit, like or
Yeah.
I passed her a note, like, I peaked when I was about 18 and it's been, nothing really since. And I think that it's kind of hypersensitive to rejection. So, I mean, you say that you don't make a move. So like these nice words of affirmation and things, they come pre-date almost to the point where you don't ask them out.
No, like I mean, I'll ask people out and like we'll go out. I think it's just I think just like my fatal flaw is just like being a nice guy to a fault. So like I think there's just plenty of people I've dated where they're just like, you're great, but I need someone like to fight with every
Oh
once
my
in a while.
Lord.
Like,
My
you know?
Lord. What the fuck is that? That's wrong, right? I mean,
Like,
there's
well,
something evil about that, isn't there? Is there
I
something
don't know. I
sadist or masochistic about that?
I don't know. I don't blame them at all. Like it's hard to make a subject like that funny, but I've certainly tried.
But
And
as a funny person, though, you think that your funny instinct would manifest itself in certain light ribbing, I would think. Like meaning like,
yeah,
giving them shit a little bit just in service of the fucking joke. Like, do you actually, are you such kind of a sap? And I'm just kind of like playing along if
it's
as if
okay. I
that's
have
the
thick skin.
yeah. If you are you so sappy that your comedy brain gets turned off the minute you get into kind of a pre-relationship?
Great question. It's very possible.
Mm. So all you
It's
got to do
very
is make sure
possible.
make sure you turn back on your comedy brain, and then it should be fine. Like you won't have to play evil games. You just have to
Right.
tell the occasional joke, or write a piece that's thinly veiled at their expense and show it to them.
That
Like what I
is
got in
awful.
McSweeney's. This is
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
about you. It's
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. That no, that would be sadistic. Yeah, dude. I mean, I truly I don't know what my diagnosis is.
Wow, I love that. And so
But
you
like
didn't realize it till just
I
now.
like myself,
Yeah. Oh,
like
sure.
I'm comfortable with who I am. But like
Yeah.
I guess the way that I've joked about it on stage is like um I'm nice and I realize that is not a likable quality. It's not like have you I mean this is like rip from what I say on stage, but it's like have you ever met someone who's just nice to you for no reason? It's exhausting. It's
I don't want this
exhausting.
person in my life. Yeah, because
Yeah.
if these people don't like themselves, like if everybody is fairly insecure, then somebody else treating them fairly kindly is a little bizarre because they don't feel that worthy of your kindness.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, like I hate to like reflect the blame on anyone but myself, but like we all have our stuff, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so I mean, that's one of the things about dating is like both you have to meet in the middle and like both people bring their history to it. And so it's just like there's just going to be a price of admission, like there's going to be something that's like this person's a little messed up in this way and that person's a little messed up in this way. And I think the way that maybe I'm a little messed up is like I mean, I hate to be vulgar, but like it's just like to put it in plain terms, it's like people want someone who like is gonna fuck them. you know?
And you can't fuck them with you're going to be kind and gentle all the time.
Well, I won't get explicit and into that, but like certainly the way I present myself is not a fuck person.
Hunter Gardner is not a fuck boy, I suppose.
No, I really hope I'm not anyway.
And I think that like one of the things we're going to talk about is the fact that you first kind of fell in love by seeing a stand up on Oprah Winfrey, I think. But one thing that Oprah always says that I love is her and Dr. Phil, had a little moment there where everybody was watching the show and it was very wise. And one of the things that I liked was, what's the payoff? So even to certain victims, they're like, okay, well, what's the payoff in continuing to present yourself as a victim? Is it because other people feel sorry for you, et cetera? Or what's the payoff? Yeah. So for me, there's a payoff in having fear of rejection, intimacy issues, because then I can kind of indulge my introversion or my hobbies or my ambitious pursuits. And so in the same way, is there a payoff to you for driving people away with your kindness? Like, do you enjoy being alone because it affords you the opportunity to, have all these comedy pursuits?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, what that makes me think of is that kind of like subtle, like that almost kind of like manipulation of, when I really think about like where my niceness comes from.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, it might come from a place of like growing up as a kid. I knew if I could make someone feel bad for me, I could get what I want. And so I don't know. Like, I'd like to think my niceness doesn't come from there, but it's like, oh, if this person is just like so nice and like an innocent type,
Yeah.
then like then like I will feel bad for that. Then I know that like they would feel bad for me, and then I could get from them what I want. I really hope that's not the case.
But it's not actually now. I mean, you're realizing though that it's not working because, yeah, they might pity you, but they'll pity you to the point where it's not like they're going to continue the relationship. They're just going to see you as a less attractive partner.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's. I feel so bad for this guy. I must date him.
Ah, said by no one ever. I mean, I suppose back in the day it could have worked, and that's maybe where it came from. You know, like back in the day, I was working like gangbusters, and so, but you know, is there a payoff? I mean, do you enjoy? I mean, I guess you're going on enough dates where it's not, you know, harming your life, but do you enjoy having solitary time that's not taken up with, you know, the whole working at a relationship?
Yeah, I think like I mean, that is a trade-off, right?
Right.
And it's like I guess a somewhat bizarre benefit of being a single person. But like, listen, I want to be with someone. Haven't talked about this on stage, but like I really want to be a dad.
Okay.
Again, not a cool thing to say, but like almost in a comedic way, like in the way that like women would be portrayed in like old timey like movies and books, where it's like, my mission is just to be a mother. It's like, that is kind of how I feel about being a dad. Like, I want to be a
Wow.
dad so bad.
There's actually, I've known two guys that kind of gave off the same vibe as you. Like they were super nice, and they both got divorced to the point where they were trying to like cry on my shoulder. They were like, "Oh, you know, divorce, blah blah blah." And I asked one of them, I was like, "Okay, well, why don't you just pursue your hobbies, blah blah blah." I was like, "Name your hobbies." He had zero, and
Mm,
sure enough, in both cases, they both were married immediately after I would have, or I did waste my time letting them cry on my shoulder. And so if you're a super nice guy who just wants to be a dad, I really think that it's gonna fucking happen. And it sounds like if you're talking about it at all on stage, and maybe you should, as far as the dad thing, I mean, it sounds like you haven't talked about the dad thing as much I mean, certain people are going to be like, hell yeah. I mean, you're drawing the right, well, meaning you're drawing the right people to you. If you're like, I'm a
yeah.
super nice guy who wants a kid, like I would almost think you're drawing the right people to you.
Yeah, maybe. That's a nice thing for you to say. I appreciate that, and I'm not going to counter it whatsoever.
But I mean, now that like whenever I get anybody who says that they want to have kids, of course, my pet issue is it selfish to have kids? For example,
Mm,
like if you have a Hunter Gardner yourself, you have a Hunter Gardner Jr., and he's going to grow up and he's going to have to work or die every day of his life. Like, meaning you're going to take care of him the first 16, 18 years of his life, and then he's going to go out into the big bad world and he's going to work or starve. And of course, he might have the same issues you have with, being overly kind to the point he doesn't get into a relationship he wants to get into. And that's all because Hunter Gardner Sr. made the decision without his consent to bring him into this world.
yeah.
What's your take on my bizarre pet issue?
No, I mean, I understand that. Yeah, like, is it selfish to have children?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, I buy that logic. You know what? I think it will deal. I mean, listen, like, first I need to fall in love with someone and like get married. I mean, you can have a kid with someone obviously outside of marriage, but like, so I would see it as like an extension of like the relationship with the person I'm in love with. I feel like I'm still skirting your question. Maybe you've just changed my mind.
Oh no, but yeah, I don't mean to change people's mind, but if you do get into a relationship with somebody else who was going to have a kid anyway, you're like, well, I'm
Right.
not really, I'm kind of, I'm having the kid because this other person wants one, and they would have had one anyway. So it can be rationalized. Like I can't say that I'll never have a child. If I have a spouse who's gonna do it anyway, might as well, kind of make sure it's a good Brian Koppen Jr.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, my simplest like answer to that right now is like, I have a great relationship with my dad,
Yeah.
and I would like to have that kind of relationship with a son of my own.
Oh, sure. And I love the
But
fact, yeah, I mean, if
but
you're a
that's
good,
still a selfish thing, like based on what you said. Like,
oh, yeah.
oh, cool, yeah, so you're gonna have a son for you. Like, like, yeah, no.
And some people, they take it from that. They're like, okay, well, I'm just trying to meet my own needs, and it's selfish in that respect, and I'm fine with that because people have needs. But then it's also like not many people are talking about the other thing, which is what why I'm talking about it, because not many people are being like, without this person's consent. And I was always saying in the whole consent, the consent movement, but also like the climate change movement, you think more people would be like revisiting the decision to have kids, because you're without their consent, subjecting them to a future of uncertainty with climate change or with coronavirus. But yeah, I have a wonderful relationship with my dad, and it's because I've had a wonderful upbringing that I feel comfortable saying that kind of thing. Right. Because people, it could be so much worse. There could be people who are beaten on the way up, or who, born with an addiction or whatever the hell it is. And so that's always why. And of course, I never make my parents feel bad about it because they were wonderful. But that's why I can kind of be like, dude, and I've had it good. Just the fact that I have to work or starve, it's fairly easy. It's not too hard. And then the best thing I've ever seen is, somebody like, well, what's the alternative? It's like, I blessed you with life, you fucking asshole. If you don't like it, you can take a header off the fucking, roof. But I'm like, dude, I also, then we're taught that there's a God, and, you're going to go to damnation if you kill yourself. And so some of these things are like, dude, it's, I have to then live correctly for 60 to 80 years or be damned to eternal hell if there is such a thing. But I love the fact that you've engaged with me on this kind of stuff, because Hunter, that just means you're going to be a great writer. I can read all your stuff in Little Old Lady and Points and Case and McSweeney's. And it turns out this Robot Butt thing, I already follow them. So this is Robot Butt. They have like 7,000 followers. And so you run all the big publications, and they can find out when you're doing all this, when you're going to release your YouTube videos and stuff like that by paying attention to huntergardner.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
If you search Hunter Gardner on Twitter or Instagram, I'll pop up. But in all fairness, my handle is a little difficult.
Fine. Make sure your website has, the Twitter icon, so it's more easily to find Hunter Gardner.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all there, baby.
It's all there, baby. Hunter Gardner, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. This was cool.